Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Excellence in Childcare podcast. I'm Cindy Alexander, and I'm super excited to have with me today Noelle Dutino. She is the owner and founder of the Directors Club, a consulting company that is meant to help childcare center directors run more excellent childcare centers. She's also the owner of Scribble Time, which is a early learning center for young children. She's owned that for about 18 years. She is an expert in the field. She's got 9 years in consulting, and her superpower when it comes to childcare is strength in operations when it comes to money, administration, and people. And we are so excited to talk to her today. And we're going to be diving into how to help and support your rectors, how to run your centers more efficiently. We got lots on the agenda today. Noelle, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast. I love talking
Yeah,
early ed.
we're excited to have you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your journey into early childhood education? Maybe talk about how you got started in childcare and what led you to start the Directors Club.
Sure. I started working in financial institutions in a bank in Boston when I graduated from college. And after 12 years, I was there as the manager of business administration for the corporate investment bank, where I learned like human resources and finance and money and all the people and the operations and making sure that we followed policy because that was so important. My bank got bought out and I was on to plan B and I was devastated. But then I was having lunch with my dad, and my sister was graduating from her, getting her degree in early education. And he said, "Oh, why don't you open up a childcare?" And I was like, "No way." And then I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't want to be in the classroom. And then we got to thinking, well, it's not going to be a little center. Maybe we could do a big center. So we came up with our business plan and we developed Scribble Time right in our community that we live in Massachusetts. And with her background in early education and my background in business, it was the perfect pair to take all the things that we have to do as childcare center directors. And I was able to take my business skills and figure out a way to implement them because I was so overwhelmed when I first opened the center with all the things that we had to do.
Wow. So, yeah, it sounds like your skills and your experience really complemented each other to get Scribble Time going.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that has grown and what led you into starting the Directors Club.
Sure. We started with a center of 34 students and just started expanding in the space that was available to us. And then 2008 came. And we were very successful. We had a waiting list. We could have opened more centers. And we started getting phone calls from other centers in the area in 2008 when the recession hit. And I was like, what do you mean things aren't going well at your center? I mean, I told you I had no experience in early education. And they were like, I can't get, like, I'm failing my licensing. I can't get the students to stay. They keep coming and then the families leave. And I'm like, so one of them, I was like, I'm going to come out and meet you. How about that? And so I went out and I realized that they had no skills in business operations. And I was surprised by that. And so I started sharing my checklist with them and my time management system with them. And it started working and they started having successes. And it was so amazing for me to see this change because then they started getting excited and passionate again about it's not so bad, I can get it done. And so I went back to college for early ed thinking I was going to learn all these amazing things, and I did. I learned about the children, but still again didn't learn about the business. And that's when the Directors Club was born. I'm like, I have to teach how to implement all the policies and procedures that you have in a childcare center, how to implement them into your time that you have in your day, and what kind of systems you can put in place to get it consistent, and how to train your team on it, all the things that one place is all about.
That is awesome, and that is so true. That is a super big gap in our industry is that so many people get into the business because they want to care for children or they have an educational background or they want to make a difference for families
Yes.
or their communities, and they don't have that business background training.
Hmm.
And so, what you're suggesting is really valuable to offer checklists and systems and processes and procedures. Because when you can um, write out a process, it can be duplicatable and
Yes.
it can be monitored and measured.
Yes.
So that is so valuable. I love that. Thank you for sharing. What do you think the most important role of a director is in an early learning program? You work with a lot of directors. What is their biggest impact or their most important role?
I think personally, I'm a big proponent of social emotional development. So I think the environment is so important. How we set up the environment as a director for our students, for the office, for the teachers, for the parents. And so I think that's really important for us to set up a good environment and good system so that we're not stressed out in the environment. And I think that's really important to me is the environment.
The environment.
Yeah.
And you're talking about physical environments so that it's easy to navigate and get around and find what you need.
I'm talking about that and the emotional environment, like the stress level in the environment. When really you can't just walk into your center and you're going to run it for the day. You have to walk in with a plan. And I believe that's so important. And when we set ourselves up with a good plan to execute all the things, I mean, there's so many things that we have to do in a child care center. And when we set ourselves up with a plan, we're less stressed. And then it allows us to support our teachers better, which then allows them to support our students better. And that's really what my passion is about, is our students having great experiences and where they're getting supported in their early education journey before they move on.
I love that. What do you think are a couple of areas that directors seem to struggle with the most when it comes to leading their teams and setting up this environment?
So funny you ask, because I just did this huge survey the last 2 months, and
Oh,
everyone,
awesome.
yeah, and it was the best results because I'm like, what do you need help with? What do you need help with? And the list was gigantic, but it really wasn't. It was only two things. The first thing was they need time. They need to gain back time so that they can put that system in place, so they can increase their tuition or work on that retention plan. Um, and so that's one thing they're looking for. And the second thing is training their teachers. Everyone is struggling. Those are the two hot topics. They are struggling with. We have a new workforce now, right? We had a big
Hmm.
exodus out of our early education. We are rebuilding our workforce, and we're bringing in people that have never been in the field before, and we need a training plan for them. And those are the two biggest things that they're missing right now.
So, when it comes to training new team members, what advice can you offer to, help set up this new workforce up for success?
I think the biggest thing you can do is systematize your onboarding. And so I believe that, we struggle because we're short staffed and we have to be in ratios all the time. But be short staffed 3 or 4 more days. It's okay because then she's coming at the end of it, or she or he, whoever's coming at the end of it, right? And so I believe that bringing on an employee and training them on your vision, your philosophies, and your process, because every center does everything so different. And so when we provide this training scope to them right when they walk in the door, like my employees come in, they watch video trainings on orientation, they spend 3 days in the classrooms that they're going to be working in with an orientation checklist, really going through those policies. And then we're checking in with them to see how's it going. Are they understanding it? And then it provides us a resource for them to go back to as they're getting in the job and they're struggling on certain topics.
Okay. Are there any little extra things that you do, or is there a secret sauce to your process when you're training and onboarding a new team member?
I think that I like to ensure that they feel comfortable in the process. So I give them a checklist, is what I give them, of all
Oh,
the
okay.
things they need to learn. right? And it's huge. And we give them the checklist, but we give them a mentor that goes along with that. And so that they're never alone in that process. And that mentor meets them at the front door on the first day that they're going to work before they even punch in. And she welcomes them and brings them into the classroom. They get introduced to everybody and their checklists, and then we begin working through it. And I make sure that that mentor, after the orientation, checks in with them a couple of times, sits with them at the next staff meeting, and just really builds that relationship of a mentor in the program.
So you talked about, checklists for when you have a new hire, but like as far as like operations, what other ways do you use checklists in your school?
Oh, we're like checklist freaks, okay? So we have, we started with cleaning checklists, right? That's basic. Here's a
Mhm.
cleaning checklist. But then you realize that, one teacher has to open a classroom that she's never opened before. And that was me one day. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I was like, we're doing an opening checklist so I don't look like a fool in the classroom. I have the kids telling me what to do. And so we did an opening checklist, and then we do a closing checklist, and then we've added a rest time checklist. Literally any process you can add a checklist to. We have checklists in the office for the directors, like a monthly checklist of things that need to get done, a checklist on improving the checklist, like you name it, we have checklists. I told you, we're checklist
Wow.
freaks.
So how detailed are your checklists? Are they just like clean sink, or are they, you know, this is the step to mix the cleaning solution to clean the sink, and this is where things go? Like, can you give us a little bit of insight as to
Sure.
how somebody would know exactly what to do?
So the checklists are basic. So they're like you said, when you come in, maybe they have to, fill the bleach bottles, and we give them the, fill the bleach bottles. But when they get to the bleach bottles, there's a label on the bleach bottle that tells you how to do it. Or if you're going to put snack out, it says go to the kitchen and get snack, but then you get into the kitchen and there's a checklist on that. We then, with any checklist, everyone's always like, oh, I wish I had, standing operating procedure manual. And that's your checklist, is your table of contents for that document.
Yeah. I've heard so many new center owners or new directors get so hung up on, your operations manual or your processes and procedures. And it's really not that hard. It's just start writing down what you do in a day in every classroom. And
Yes.
then maybe have your teachers or your staff review it and say, oh, you missed this step, or we actually do it this way, or in this classroom, X is kept over in this closet, so it's different than in this classroom. And just by starting to write it down and then having different team members review it, it's
Yes.
like you've got it written. And it's
Totally
it's
agree.
it's not really that hard.
Totally agree. And I think it's overwhelming for people when they see that. And so
Hmm.
I always suggest that they start with like the basics, money, administration, and people, and then bucket those into daily, weekly, quarterly, and annually. And then I also suggest that you have your, one of your good teachers that really does a great job with it, then do the same thing for her classroom. And then at a staff meeting, really present it and talk about it and have everyone else do it while they're together.
Yeah, and then when you bring the staff into it, they
Yeah.
feel like they've had a say in how
Yes.
the center runs and what
Hmm.
your procedures are. And then they're more bought into doing them the way that
Totally
you want
agree.
them to be done.
Totally agree. They see your
So,
vision when they're part of it. They see the vision.
yeah, because they're a part of it. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I love that. So, when we're talking about checklists, we realize that there are certain things that need to get done every day. But each staff person might have a different idea of what that means, or, how complete it is, or how thorough the job is completed. How do you monitor or train for consistency when your staff is going through the checklist?
So what we do is we document each step in a document, a Word document that is then kept inside the classroom or manually or online. However, if we're using one place, like you would put it all in there, and then you really get to see. all the different details of it. And what we do is we then, for every new employee, like part of that orientation would be reviewing the policies. And then we
Hmm.
also add every single policy is added to a staff meeting over a 12-month period. So we review it quick as a team. Like you might come at a staff meeting and review like 5 topics. Like, let's all just talk through how's this going? Is this still accurate? So that you're always working together as a team to keep your procedures, refreshed and accurate for training purposes. And then I think the last piece of it is as a director is recognizing them when the procedures are going really well and how it's really impacting each of the classrooms in a positive way.
That is spot on. Communication is the key to,
Yes,
a great workplace environment, to making sure that the wheels of the business are turning. I love that. What impacts, might there be if the team wasn't consistent in the way that they either completed a task or the number of tasks or, requirements that they completed? How could that impact the business as a whole?
I think first of all, when things aren't completed, it overwhelms the center in each individual teacher. I think that sometimes we get into a position where maybe I'm doing more in the classroom than another teacher. And then that breaks down retention issues. Someone might leave, like your best teacher that's so invested in it might just leave because she's sick of doing it. Also think it impacts the families because they're not getting consistency from one classroom to another, especially if they have
Hmm.
multiple children. And then licensing is such a problem. Like you don't want your licensor to come in and you couldn't do one thing, like one simple thing. And I know we all make mistakes, but there are, certain things that you can figure out how to get done consistently. And I think that just looks, if you have consistent licensing issues, I think that is a problem personally.
Yeah, checklists and written policies and procedures with accountability really, really can help you avoid any
Yes,
issues with licensing, and they really increase your quality of care. When you have quality of care, then you have happy families, and when you have happy families, you have a good reputation. And when you have a good reputation, people are lining up out the door. So
exactly.
it really, really does start with your policies and procedures, um,
I also
and
think
making
that like
sure that.
it's, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was
Go
just going to
ahead.
say, I also think that retention is a huge piece of that model
Hmm.
because who wants to work in a place that it's like mayhem all the time and you don't know whether you're coming or going? But when you have really good policies and procedures in place, I think it really benefits that retention and helps staff understand exactly what's expected of them and what kind of environment that they're going to be working in.
I love that. And when you put an emphasis on, um, how do I say this? Uh, you know, consistency in following your processes and procedures, not so you can be, the checklist monster, you know what I mean, just making
Yep,
sure for the sake of following a checklist, but that your focus is on excellence and they're working in a place that is professional and excellent and high quality, that impacts retention. So I love
totally
that you
agree.
brought that up. So earlier we were talking about the fact that directors, one of the biggest hurdles or issues that they face is a lack of time to get everything
Yes,
done. And one of the greatest ways that you can empower a team is to delegate. But a lot of times, even though directors are facing that time crunch, they also tend to want to hold on to everything because they think that they're the only ones that can do it right.
exactly.
What advice would you give to a director to help them empower their team and maybe delegate some tasks or areas of responsibility off their plate?
So I think the first thing you do is vision. You explain the vision of the project that you want to delegate. I myself years ago hated delegating some things. And now I'm like, you know what? If I sit down with my team and explain my vision for whatever the procedure is that I expect, and then give it to them and have them run with it. And I like to check in. Like, we have Monday morning meetings with my team, and we sit and talk about, what projects are you working on? What do you have to get done this week? And we might talk through some challenges that they're having or successes that they've had the previous week on it. And then we talk about time. What kind of time do you need to put into this week? How can I support you in that time? How can we support each other in getting our goals met for the week?
Okay, so you discuss the scope of the project, discuss time and resources needed, and make a plan together to get it done. And I think a lot of owners might feel like, oh, once I pass it off, then I can't check in on it. But really, you should check in and see how it's going and see what support you can do. And then pretty much later, I kind of feel like it will go like clockwork once they figure out. They have a couple of successful times of doing the specific thing, and it'll just be like clockwork. That's
I
amazing.
also think that if we bring reflection into our job, into everything that we do, and we look back as a team and reflect on how things are going or how that process went, I think that conversation is critical to all of us in each of our centers, and it makes it normal that it's okay a process might not work, because it's a great time to fix it, tweak it, update it, and then we're all set, to run with it for our daily operations and for our orientation.
That's such a great point. I actually had a conversation like that yesterday with one of the team members here at one place. We were discussing, one project that we were doing, and we're like, yeah, maybe that's not working quite how we thought it would. It might be
Mm-hmm.
time to scrap that one and move on to something else that would be more effective. So I love that piece. That is so important. Now, you're an owner of Scribble Time, right? But
Yes, I am.
you guys also act as directors?
We're out of it right now because I spend most of
Okay.
my day working in the Directors Club, but I'm in my center right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I was asking that for clarification because I was kind of wondering, what advice you might give owners regarding training or onboarding a new director, that would help set them up for success. What do directors need from owners to be successful?
I think that a shared vision. So I think that is so important that we have. And I think a plan. So, we call it the success map, and that's however you manage all the things in the child care center. So money, administration, and people, whether that's like a policy that like a software program like One Place, or a Word document on how you keep your things. I also think that putting all that on a calendar and blocking time out to take care of all those things is critical. I also think that like the Monday morning meeting is helpful, like to help keep her supported and on track if needed. They might not need that after a while. Um, and then giving them the flexibility to do things and you let go. Sometimes we need to let go as owners and allow someone else to carry out the vision. And, might not be exactly how you want it, but I think that we can all know that if you've hired a director to lead your center, she's probably in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I love that about letting go. And I don't know who said the original quote, but I've heard it said that when you delegate, if the person you delegated to did it 80% as good as you would have done it, leave it alone. Don't make any micromanagement changes.
Yes,
Just call it good and encourage them and help them gain that confidence to continue doing those types of things. And it's just going to get better and better over time. And you'll get more and more in sync over time,
agree.
to where when you work on projects, it's going to be 90 or 95% what you would have done. So I love that. You
Totally
need to
agree.
allow for other people's, personalities and visions and trial and error. It's the
Agree.
only way you're going to get stuff off your plate. I love
And
that.
and in the beginning, I've coached some directors that, like you said, I love that number. Like, oh, if 80% of it is good, right? So if you're like, I always say progress, not perfection. So like you're going to put
Hmm.
something out that might not be exactly what you wanted, but I always say sit and look at what did you like about what they did and praise them on that, just to continue to
Hmm.
build that relationship between the owner and the director.
Yeah. And it builds confidence, and
Yeah.
you do it with children. You notice what you want to see
Exactly.
more of, right? And so
Exactly.
when you notice what you want to see more of in your team, you're going to get more of that. So
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
So right now, one of the topics of conversation in the early childhood world is finding and obviously finding and retaining staff. Do you have any like outside the box methods that you've employed to attract new teachers to your school?
Yes. I have to credit this one to Vernon Mason. So I
Oh,
was
he's amazing.
He is. I love him. So I was feeling uninspired at one point, and I didn't know this was in the middle of the pandemic, and I couldn't find the teachers, and I was like so stressed out. And so I listened to him one day, and he said, think outside the box to find your teachers. Where are other caring people? And then he was like,
Mm.
hospitals, CNAs. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think of that. So I spend a lot of time learning how to do marketing on Facebook. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take his tip. So I got onto Facebook and I wrote an ad. And when I write an ad for a job, I never write, looking for a preschool teacher that can do A, B, and C. Everybody knows that's going to be apply for a preschool teacher, I guess, except for the baristas that apply sometimes on Indeed. So I always put like the benefits and the culture of my company, what the environment is to work at my childcare center, with a fun picture of the kids that I can post. And I target my Facebook ad over hospitals, nursing homes, because you don't have to just do a Facebook ad to the public. You can pick locations of where to do Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And so that drew me in 8 CNAs from my area. And so one of my items that we used a grant for was sending people back to college. And so I said to all these people, if you come after 90 days, we will pay for you to get certified as a teacher. And so I now have 9 over the last summer. Well, it was 2 summers ago. I have 9 brand new teachers that are still with me that didn't start out in early ed, but they started out caring for elderly. And then they came into early ed and they're very caring towards the children. And we just had to train them on being an early education teacher.
Wow. So you really implemented a couple of different strategies in order to, get a big pool of
Yes.
amazing teachers. I mean, not only did you think outside of the box of where you looked, you
Yeah.
implemented online marketing strategies, and then you basically offered a re-education program or a
Yes.
continuing education program free of charge.
I really
I
pushed that you don't
actually,
have to work weekends.
oh
Yeah.
yes, that would be big
Yeah.
with the people that work in the care homes and things like
Yes.
that. But yeah, I saw another childcare center owner recently that I'm friends with on Facebook, and she basically offered this program. And basically, what she was advertising it as is, we're going to train you on how to become a teacher. It was like they behind the scenes. I knew they were recruiting, but they're like, we have this program and it's completely free. You're going to be a certified teacher when you're done with it. And I thought that was genius. So you did it first. I love that.
Yeah. Because of Vernon. He inspired me.
Well, in this community, in ECE, there's a whole lot of coaches and consultants that are out there, with a public voice. And I think
Yes.
we're all kind of learning from each other. And we take the bits and pieces that we hear that will work for our programs and implement them and then and tweak them and
Yeah,
find ways to do it better. So I love that we're a support to each other.
I agree.
So, one place, in the Excellence in Childcare podcast is on a mission to help more center owners and directors create childcare programs of excellence. And, in the interest of, helping to further that mission, what do you think is the biggest issue or hurdle facing childcare businesses today? And like, what solutions might you have to help overcome that?
I think that the biggest issue, honestly, is to gain time because that's what you need to implement all these strategies. to get bring on new teachers, have better onboarding, have better systems. And so I teach on a philosophy of time blocking. And so we have 480 minutes a day to get things done. And if we just come into our center every day with no plan and a checklist and a to-do list of what we have to get done, it doesn't always work. And so I always say to people, think of your time, your day in 3 steps. One, the daily operations, which is what we all do every day, come in and do all the things that we do. The second piece is setting at least if you're a full-time director, at least an hour a day to work on your success map. So that's your systems, your policies, getting all the licensing requirements completed. And then the third thing is growth. Set aside at minimum of 15 minutes a day to work on something to better the center, whether that's, again, updating a policy or procedure for onboarding or finding a new teacher. I think I think that system of allocating your time instead of allowing the teachers just to keep like interrupting you all day and then you never get anything done. Right. So just like we teach our preschool kids, we don't all interrupt the teacher during circle. Everyone gets a turn. The director needs to take her turn in the office, shut the door, and allocate that time to whatever it is she has to get done at her center. And then all the
Okay.
things that we have problems with, finding teachers on board, whatever it is, will get solved during that time.
All right. Do you have a personal motto or quote that you live by that motivates you to get through your day in such a positive way?
Yeah, I start my day off every day with a quote, which is funny, and it just helps keep my focus on it during the day. But today's was, "Girl, you already have what it takes," because sometimes we have all these big hurdles to get, and we're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can get that done." And you got to take a step back, and I think to myself, you either know how to do it or you know how to figure out how to do it, and so that's what my motto is for myself.
I love that. You know how, or you know how to figure it out.
Yep.
100%. Love that. If listeners wanted to contact you to find out more about what you do at the Directors Club, how could they get in touch?
You can meet me on my website, which is thedirectorsclub.net. And then I also have a Facebook page, The Directors Club, and they can
Okay.
follow me there and an Instagram.
And what types of things do you offer at the Directors Club?
We have a monthly membership and we offer office hours on it. And so you come and I help you execute whatever the plans that you have at your center, what things you want to get done. I help you do that. Also, we offer one-off classes, like we have a hiring and retention course that we offer. And I'm excited that in January we'll be announcing something called the Teachers Lounge, because that was the second thing that everyone struggled with, was training their teachers. And we're working on classroom management tools and leadership tools for our teachers.
Oh, that's amazing. You really are doing a lot to help support the childcare industry by supporting our directors and now teachers. That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, Noelle, this has been a really, really great conversation. I've really enjoyed talking with you on different ways that we can support um, our directors and also to just help make sure that the quality and consistency of care and operations is there within the business so the business can be successful. It's been really amazing. Um, I think the thing that impacted me the most is that even though we talked mostly about checklists and operations, the foundation of it all was the way that you communicate and build relationships. And I think that is so important, and it's really foundational because you kept coming back to core values and vision and making sure you're on the same page and communicating and reflecting and all of those things. So I found that really powerful myself.
Thank you. And I appreciate you having me. I think these podcasts are just so impactful to the community when we all share.
We only want to bring the best to our audience. So thank you, thank you, thank you
Well,
so
you
much
agree.
for
Oh, thank
joining
you.
us. Um, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Um, I don't even, I'm thinking like, I'm just trying to think. I so many things. I think that like, don't give up on yourself. Like, don't feel that overwhelmed. Reach out to whatever communities that you have to help you move forward and reduce your overwhelm and just figure out how to get things done, because we need to do it together and not separately on our own.
I love that. Well, thank you so much again, Noelle, for joining us. Thank you to our listeners for listening to another episode of the Excellence in Childcare podcast. And be sure to subscribe so you know when the next episode is coming out. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.